way to meet.
What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm so happy to be here for everyone that is joining us live. Thank you so much for joining the Catalyst for the Trades podcast. I'm here with my special guest, George Donaldson, and co-host Chuck Staszkiewicz. Also
Thanks,
known as
Jen.
Chuck in the Truck. I'm sorry. One of these days I'll get it. In the meantime, I'm gonna go for that version. You guys, Crystal's not able to be here with us today, but Chuck and I got this under wraps. And George, so excited to have you. You know, it's not very often when you get one of the goats of the industry. For those of you that don't know George Donaldson, George is a proven leader, obviously scaling businesses with an extraordinary track record in the home services industry. He's the driving force behind Fix It 24/7. He's taken this company from $1.7 million to $100 million in 7 years, which is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
That's fun. That's a lot of fun.
Right? I feel like gray hairs are part of that conquest.
Or losing your hair. That's what I wear all the time. Yeah. See,
luckily I'm blonde because there's some gray in there too, but it's there's a lot less of it now, I'll tell you that.
Oh my goodness. George, thank you. I know you are a busy man and doing big things, but thank you for taking time to be with us today. I know that Chuck and I are getting questions from entrepreneurs in the home services space on a regular basis. From everything from should I sell, why should I sell, when should I bring my employees in? You know, this is where a lot of turmoil sits. It's obviously something that's being discussed a heck of a lot more frequently in the home services industry than it was 5 years ago, pre-COVID. You know, from your vantage point, why would you tell someone that this should be in their game plan? Why should this be at least a consideration?
You know, as a business owner, I think there's always an exit strategy, even if it's in the back of their mind. You know, the end game, first song is leave it to my kids, or, you know, there's some other alternatives, I guess. But ultimately, I think, you know, 90 something percent of business owners of any business, of any industry, want to be able to exit at some point. And then the question is, you know, when? And then how do I get to, you know, when, and what do I want to achieve for the business and my people when I leave it behind is some question. I want to stay and run it and be partnered with a group is another strategy, is another option that people look at. And you know, I think, you know, it depends on what it is you want, and that's different for every business owner. You gotta look at, you know, what is it I want for myself and my family. You know, we take the risk being the business owner, so I think that's a question that needs to be asked. And also, most business owners, good ones anyway, care about where their people are going, where their people are left, and what opportunity are going to be, you know, their people are going to be left with. And am I putting them in a better situation than they're in right now? And if I am, then, you know, if I can answer the questions, and I'm really speaking for myself when I've done this, and am I putting myself and my family and my people in a better situation? If I am, then, you know, it's probably something I should consider.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, you know, you said something awesome there, George, and it always hits home for me. Is look, here's the facts, right? You're gonna exit your business one of three ways. You're gonna leave it to family, you're gonna die, or you're gonna sell it. Plain and simple. Like, you are going to exit. So why not run a business the whole time with an exit strategy, right? And that can change. Like, you can plan. I plan to leave it to family, and then I ended up selling it, right? So it can change along the way. But I also say this. I also say, if you're running a business like you're preparing it for an exit, that's a well-oiled machine, right?
Yep.
If you're not, you're missing some things. You're not looking at certain things in a different light, right? And you should always be prepared for that exit, because look, you can walk outside tomorrow and get hit by a bus. If you don't have an exit strategy in place, what does that leave? That leaves a mess for your family, your people, everyone else. So
Yep.
I love that. I love that point.
Yeah.
When did you guys?
Another way I've heard it too, is, let's build a business that everybody wants to buy that I'm not trying to sell.
Yeah,
And,
Right.
100%.
it
Right.
doesn't have to be necessarily an exit strategy right now, but
Yep.
like you said, if you're building it that way, building a business that everybody wants to buy, then you're going to be more valuable, for one, and for two, it gives you more options. You don't have to sell, and you can sell when you want. A lot
100%.
easier said than done, though, right?
100%.
100%.
I think a lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to, I think that's the missing piece. Is first they forgot why they did it, the original why, right? And I've got to go back and remind them from the beginning, why the heck did you did it? At some point you were employed, you had regular benefits, you had a regular paycheck, you didn't have all the responsibility, the liability, everything. But why'd you do it? And usually it boils down to one of three things, or all three things. I wanted more time, I wanted more money, and I wanted more freedom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then just digging in and saying, do you have that? Do you feel like you have that? No, because then we went back to putting our contractor hat on, or, the technical expert hat on, and they started working in the business, not on the business. And it slowly turns into, I'm now a fighter and I don't have a plan, which is even worse, because now we forgot the originating reasons why we started it, and we don't have a plan to exit, and we're stuck in this chaos, which is really, really messy.
Yeah.
Not systemic, really messy.
And the truth is, for any business owner, good or bad, smart or not, for the most part, the things that you entered for, the three things you just said, time, money, and freedom, you actually don't finally achieve until you sell.
Right.
And then you have all three at once.
1000%.
Right. Otherwise, it's a job with a lot of risk and liability.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all your people who you wanted to create an opportunity for, it's also a job for them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So
And
let's back into
for me, that's always been my why, by the way, is create as many opportunities as I can for other people, and develop other people. And I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been able to make a lot of money throughout my career, and money's always come, but money actually hasn't been my driver. Developing people, creating opportunity, legacy, like those type of things have been what drives me, not money.
It's interesting because most people, even employees, money is not the driver. I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Does give you a few other freedoms you don't have without it.
Sure.
Yeah, money's important. Money gives you options, right? And you wanna be able to live a great lifestyle and provide for your kids, and your adult kids if you can, and college, and everybody has their why, and money is a resource needed for a lot of those things that are the why. But so money's important, but the actual why usually isn't money. It's, I want to put my kids through a certain college. Okay, well, you need the money to do that, but the why isn't the money, right? The why is usually something else.
Yeah, I always say to my kids, chase the passion, the money will follow.
Yeah.
Yep.
100% agree. So backtrack into this. So there's obviously 60,000 plus contractors living in that, haven't seen their first million, or maybe it's a referral based business and they're never going to see past $1 million. For everybody that's living in that space with all the liability, and is operating technically firefighting without a plan, and knows they're not happy, not comfortable, want to see something different. Like if they're already knee deep in it, and they had to have a coming to Jesus meeting right now and say, okay, I'm not feeling this. This wasn't what I planned for when I decided to become an entrepreneur. What are some tactical steps they should do right now to change the trajectory of their business?
I mean, if that's the model you're talking about, the guy who has been doing it for a while, hasn't even passed $1 million yet. And this is true, probably, I would say 3, 4, 5 million down, maybe even 7 million on down. If they've been doing it for, a decade or so, and they're only that size, it's usually that's the wrong person running the business and calling the shots just because you own it. The first business I became a general manager of, wife buys husband out, puts me in charge, and I take it, from a million to 17 million in a 4 year period of time. And initially I didn't know, I knew far less than most of those people you're speaking of, but I had the leadership ability. And I used to argue with my business mentor, Jim Abrams, once back when I reported to him that I could teach anybody to be a leader. And I learned that's not true. If you have the God given, we have different God given traits. If you have the God given leadership trait, I could develop you to be a better leader for sure. I could teach you to be a better manager if you're not a leader. But when we're talking about the person who's really going to scale a business, even people that don't know much, that natural leadership ability. Jennifer, do you know the difference between a leader and a manager?
Tell me your version.
My version is the simple answer is leaders have followers. Usually, when I ask that question, people give me a bunch of examples of it. But at the end of the day, leaders have followers. I can't, as your manager, I can't make you follow me. I can make you do a task. You want to keep your job, right? And so, but you'll complete that task at basic level, minimum level, typically, if you don't view me as a leader. But if you really believe that I have your best interest, that I'm going to make you better, even if it means I'm holding you accountable the right way by teaching you why this isn't the right thing or whatever we're our tough discussions about, how I handle that is very important. But the fact that I do handle it is also very important, that I'm developing you, making you better, creating more opportunity for you. You'll quickly follow me and you make that choice. I don't get to make that choice for you. And so, I think it's really important that the person running that company understands, like if I understand that that's not me and I put that person in place to run my company and really get out of that person's way. I mean, guide them, provide them financial support, which I'll have the capital to do now that I'm the owner and I got the right person in place driving the business. Truly let them drive the business. Find a young hungry person that might has experience in the trades but hasn't gotten that opportunity. And if you put that right person, again, easier said than done, but you put that right person running your organization, like at the end of the day, I could tell you if you're only 7 million or under and you've been running that company for 10 plus years, you're not the right person to get
That's
it
fair.
to
That's
that 10 plus $1 million company. It's just, and a lot of people can't accept that. I mean, but that's the hard truth.
Leaders create a movement. Managers hold the movement. That's
Hmm.
my interpretation of it. There's a great example of this on YouTube. It's called The First Follower, and it's a concert kind of in a park on a hill, and the first person gets up and dances, and everybody follows suit. So if you're interested in seeing that as a visual example, The First Follower is a great one.
Hmm.
So in our environment, they see me as the visionary, and I've got to have integrators. I've got to have people that I can come up with a million ideas. I'll be the first one to lead us into the promised land. I'll be the first one to change our entire trajectory, be ahead of the pack from a technology standpoint. So leaders, yes, but what's the next layer? For me, I can come up with, okay, now we need to be AI enabled. We need to lean into automation. We need to do all of these things. We need to change how we're going to business, right? But then that next layer, what do that owner that hasn't been able to lead effectively to build the business past a certain kind of stable point, what's the next layer need?
Yeah. So, there's some organizations right now, even platforms just falling apart because they had that, but they didn't have the operators, the actual
Right.
people that could go get that done. And they were too many of those, too many
Too many
too many
visionaries.
too many visionaries, right? So too many Jennifers on and no operators, and you need both. So you do need both, but if you have the operator but not the visionary, you're not going to get there. If you have a bunch of visionaries but no good operators, you're not going to get there. So I think it's a good understanding of putting the right people in the right places. Hardest part of any business, by the way. But that's the key. And if the better you get at that, and a lot of it's ego driven, right? And if I'm not the right person to put the right people in place, then I should probably consider, hiring somebody else to be that person. Now that's
Yeah,
tough too, because if I make a misfire there, like that could actually hurt me. So it's not easy,
yeah,
But
that's
another strategy though is partnering with the right private equity group. So here's a story by an acquisition we made. Guy, I met with him. And look, when I do this, I typically am looking out for the best interest of the person. So there's people where I'm like, look, just do X, Y, and Z. So I'll help them. And I'm not trying to be a salesperson and say, hey, sell to us right now because. But in this particular case, he had been running the company 10 years, had been through many organizations, including, like Grant Cardone, for example, like, oh my gosh, paying a lot of money for, well, I won't say anymore, but,
Hi.
um, you know, so, like, yeah, like, I mean, so it hadn't gone, it's spinning his wheels. And, when it got down to it, he had a number. I want to get to X before I exit. And I said, look, you should consider this. Are you going to get there to that X faster on your own? Or here we are at 100 million going to a billion pretty quick. We're the last platform built to do that, and the only one built fully integrated to do it right. Meaning we're not going to have problems at the top like a lot of them are today. We're not just a sales organization. We are a very well run organization. And so, with a lot of sophistication with our team, so are you more likely to get there, take guaranteed chips off the table now, invest into our platform and with the rest of it, and then that will multiply. If that goes up 5, 10x, you're going to be way past the number you just told me. And
Okay,
so
so let's
he made that decision and has already done extremely well. He'll far surpass, I think, the number that he was hoping to get to on his own before he exited. And he's on
okay.
our team. He's still running his brand, his branch, it's but he's partnered with us, learned a lot in a very short period of time, and he's going to do really well.
yeah,
So we have to break that down just a little bit because I know a lot of company owners don't understand that. So they're thinking that I sell, I walk away, I've got nothing, or I sell and now I've got a 2-year agreement, I have to stay involved for a certain period of time. There's a different version where they can become part of, they can sell, reinvest back into the company and become part of the next sale or the next event, the next cap event. Can you explain that a little bit more for them?
I can, and so it's different for everybody. So it depends on what they want. So we have every option that you just mentioned, but if you want to, our organization, I can only speak for our organization, and I could give you other examples of others, but we allow you to become a shareholder of Fix It Group. So you're now an owner of a much bigger company. You're still an owner. So in this guy's particular case, he is an owner of our entire group, and he will do very well when we all exit to the next private equity group. By the way, we just exited from round 1 to round 2 2 weeks ago. And so,
Congratulations on that.
awesome. Thank you. And so we're now just starting round. We're at the very beginning of round 2. So like right now that was the end of round 1. He took equity and rolled 100% of that equity. That he's going to do really well on in this next round. But that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to take some equity. Now with us, we have a lot of upside. Let's say, which most of these groups don't have any equity left, but let's say he was talking to a $1 billion platform. Well, for him just to double that equity value today, because that his company's worth X. I'll just use numbers. These aren't the real numbers, but just if your company is worth $10 million today, and you took $1 million in equity, well, for that million, instead of taking that cash to turn to 2 million with a $1 billion platform, they have to go to 2 billion for your equity to just double. If you would have got equity when those platforms were 100 million, you did really, really, really well at this point. And that's where we are. And
Right.
and at this point, the consolidation eras, what I noticed, Jennifer, the consolidation eras of the past, ARS, Blue Dot, Dial One, Service Experts, the consolidation era of the 80s failed. 80s and 90s call it failed, and it failed at the top because a lot of they were just roll-ups. They were buying a bunch of companies. They were all very different from each other, and they kept them very different from each other. And that's impossible to manage what they're doing here versus here versus here. And then when I watched it happening 2019 through 2018 into 20, I was like, they're doing the same thing. They're making the same mistake. That's not going to go well at the top. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna partner with private equity and build a platform. And we started that in the middle of 2020. And we integrated all of our sales systems, the way we go to market, our marketing strategy, and every branch is the same. So if someone partnered with us today, they're going to learn a lot, but there's going to be some things that are going to change to be better because we have a recipe that works. We've scaled many companies very fast without exception. And if they're now an owner of the group, though, they want that, right? Because they want this whole group to get to $1 billion, and that's really the opportunity with ours. There's several opportunities out there, but for us, I could say anything's an opportunity. You don't have to take equity. You can take equity. I could help you, understand how to change X, Y, and Z in your business and get it more valuable. And let's talk later. I have a number of those people on our list. So yeah, I truly, the thing I could say about myself and just my leadership style to my people, one thing that has driven our business is we really follow the servant leadership mentality. It's my job to truly, our leadership's jobs to truly serve our people well, and their job to truly serve our client well. I mean, truly, you can't not fake it, not use up my people as another scheme, pawn in my scheme. I'm the to if not the most. I have more field people that are shareholders in our organization. We just flipped to the second private equity group a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Everything I told every one of them would happen did. I take that serious. When I say something's going to happen, it's going to happen. And I'm going
George,
to do everything in my power to make that happen. We have more field people in our organization that are shareholders, our top producers, obviously, but than any other organization in our industry that I know of, much less any. Usually it's just executives that get any sort of incentive equity, right?
yeah, 100%. I remember sitting on this rooftop having the conversation with you. I want to say now 2 years ago, about 2 years ago in the summer, year and a half.
Sounds
When
about right.
you were looking to come on to CI Web Group for marketing services, and you told me the exact plan that was going to happen. You said it would be within 2 years. Now we're a year and a half later. Boom.
Here we are. Yeah.
Let's go.
And what a lot of people don't understand, George, and what I'm hearing you say is, look, you're de-risking yourself, right? That's all this is like you're taking some money off the table of the hard work that you've already put in. And you're still going to drive and you're still going to be a part of the company, but you're de-risking. And any business owner should look at that, and really that should be an eye-opening statement right there. Your job as a leader and an owner is to de-risk all the time. And if you can do that and give your employees a better life, give yourself a better life, all the things that you want. I mean, realistically, you're right in the sense of they were doing the same thing that they did once before that failed, right? And that how things have changed now. But that's realistic. What you're saying in layman's terms is like, look, this isn't a sellout. This isn't you're selling to corporations or anything like that. This is literally you're de-risking your business. I know firsthand, you get hit with a huge lawsuit, that's a de-risk itself, right?
Yeah,
like you're gonna be done. You're done.
Yeah.
You have nothing left to show for it. Where if you have a group like this, okay, now you have some strength in numbers, and it makes sense. And it doesn't make sense for everybody, but it does make sense if you start to look at the bigger picture. Your job as a leader is always to de-risk every situation that you come across, and even with the firefighting that you're doing every single day.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I mean, what I would say though is, look, I know of people who have sold to a platform, took some equity, and the platform went bankrupt. Like there's risk in that. So you got to be careful who you partner with. What's your upside?
100%.
What is your risk? What's your reward? Because it's unfortunate, and it makes me sad when I see that happen. But that has happened to people. You know, if you're taking all cash and you're like, see you later, I guess you're definitely de-risking yourself from that because you're taking all cash. But you know, if you really, but it's also risk, you know, no risk, no reward, I guess, right? But you partner with
100%.
the right people and you make the right choices, and I'd just say for people to do their homework and understand, you know, there's also people who did take all cash and thought they were leaving their people in a really good situation, and that didn't end up being true for their people. There's platforms that have a lot of those stories, and you don't want, you know,
Yep.
you just got
Agreed.
you want to be super careful, um, to do the best you can to try to put everybody in a better situation, as we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree with that. I do think that there is, on one hand, you can't buy time, but you can compress it, right? My business coach always said, if I could just get you to do what you already know you should, you'd consider me a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, the brilliance upon that is by joining a platform that already has learned all the lessons that you're going to have to learn, and you can compress time and implement the proper systems, the proper processes, the proper technology, the proper marketing, the proper numbers, right? It's a proven
Hmm.
system. Then all of the time you spend battling with all of your vendor partners and everything and trying to figure it out, you literally just truncate all of that time and say, let's install a working model where we have proof and data in multiple markets that we can expect these results. And for a business owner that may not have talent, skills, experience in marketing or technology or systems or process automation or process
Or
enhancement
just
or
don't do
leadership
it.
or management, or you have it and you just make, I would call it the rocking chair syndrome, always busy, moving, not going anywhere.
Yep.
Right. Right.
Because
Those are,
some of that is they want to do it, they just don't know how. They're scared of change. And look, there it is true. If you implement something the wrong way, you're going to hurt yourself.
Mhm.
So I do again, but that comes back to, are you the right person?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or do you need a better right hand person? Sometimes it's that.
It
So
and
go ahead.
a lot of business owners, they don't focus on what they're good at. They focus on everything that they have to, right?
Hmm.
And if you partner with somebody, let them focus on what they're good at, and or let you focus on what you're good at and let them do the rest. I mean, look, here's the thing, George. Like, I sold in 2023. Okay. I looked at now, if I was still in business running it, I mean, man, it's lonely,
It's
right?
a lot
In a
tougher. It's
sense,
a lot
yeah,
tougher.
it's a lot tougher. And if you're going. Let's face it, business is like battle, right? If you're going into battle with one person versus an army of people, it's a little bit different, right? And that's the way
Yeah.
I look at partnerships. If I were to do it all over again, I would definitely have joined a group of some sort, because strength in numbers. Like, I really do fully believe that nowadays. And this wave isn't over. I mean, PE has got like what, 104 billion or 140 billion that they're going to put into companies this year.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
Look,
lot.
and for small business owners, that's made it. They already know it's made it a lot tougher because look, these private equity guys will figure out how to, with their operators, how to take more market share. So a lot of the
100%.
people you're speaking of right now today compared to 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there is a lot more market share being taken, and now that's gonna continue to skyrocket. So now
100%.
more than ever, they should be considering partnering with the right group because that's that's not gonna get easier this year, next year, or anytime soon. That's only gonna get harder.
I'll tell you from a marketing company standpoint, we get on a call with a small business and they say, how much is it going to cost? We get on the
Yeah.
call with the Fix It group and they say, how much can I spend?
Yep.
How much
And
is
what's the
available?
ROI?
How much market can I go after? How much can I bring in? Two totally different philosophies, right? If you have your numbers dialed in and you understand how much is available on the table
Yep.
and you understand how to acquire it, what your costs are, you're going to do whatever you need to because you can support the operational growth in order to handle any capacity you want, and you can do it on a dime.
Yeah,
So
and look, we have the capacity. Look, I wouldn't have been able to say this with in our first round because we were with a smaller private equity group building the platform. But this group I just partnered with, I just presented a marketing plan that is far above our budget for 1 year. Like, let us prove this out and watch what happens. and it was a very easy yes. So you're gonna have groups like us and stuff like that happening in the marketplaces where it's going to get a lot harder than it's ever been, because for my competition in our four markets that we're currently in right now, and once we prove that playbook out, any future market we go to, it's going to be very, very, very difficult for our competitors.
Yeah, and that brings up like just such a great question. I mean, sure, for the people that are of that size that they may be on the fence of like, who do I partner with? Do I sell? Do I de-risk? Do I take some chips off the table? That's one thing. But George, let's be honest. There's a lot of guys, a lot of startups. There's a lot of guys doing under $1 million or under 2 million. What would be the best advice that you would give them right now to do to get to a point where they could de-risk or partner with a group?
Um, a company, it would be hard for a newer company that's that size to really partner with anybody, if I'm being honest. I mean, they don't have much of a client base or history, or
Yeah.
there's no value in that business. I mean, a platform would rather just spend that money in marketing at that point, So,
Yep. But what do those
that
guys
that
do
that
to get to where they can partner with someone like you?
personally, I would join an organization that better teaches, which is exactly actually what I did when I was young. Certain Path is who we're part of, and I grew up in that organization. Used to be
Yep.
called SGI.
Yep.
Certain Path is an organization that will teach them and give them the material they need to succeed. But because there's so many moving pieces in our business, and if you're a newer business, there's so much for them to learn. I would join a best practices group like that. Is
Yep.
the first thing I would do, and then they also have 1,300 contractors that you're now learning from. People such as me in those events that they have. I would say go to those events, implement what you learn, like we just
Yeah,
talked
that's
about. Like, don't just make it a
Key.
social group. And
Key.
if you realize quickly that you're not the right person to be implementing this stuff and driving it, get the right person. Like,
Yeah.
that's because look, a certain path is a very low expense. Actually, the rebates you get, it's basically free
Pays
in
for
the end.
itself. Yep.
So
Pays
it's
for
it's
itself.
it's an organization that I really believe in. I've been a part of for a long time. I would join it, and I would utilize every part of it that I could.
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
agreed.
is that is actually what I did in early when I was that guy. So
Yeah,
I'm
And
giving
focus.
advice to do exactly what I did to learn.
Go out, focus on sales, and build that database. Is a couple other things I would say. Is like, look, that's where you're at in your journey, right? If you're 1 to 2 million or under 3 million, like just focus on sales and delivery to the clients. Build that database. Keep plugging away. Keep plugging away, and eventually, I agree with you. And look, if
it's
if it's certain
not for the
path,
weak at heart.
yeah, if
It's
it's
not for the
certain
weak at
path,
heart. If you want to be an entrepreneur, like here's the reality: you're underfunded. You're gonna go broke. It's gonna suck. It's gonna be a lot of sleepless nights. You're gonna skip out on a
yep,
lot of family events. Like that's what entrepreneurship is. It
yep,
sucks.
yep,
And
yep,
you better spend as you're growing a company 10 to 15% minimum, sometimes even upward 20 if you want to be aggressive and not be profitable. You got to make sure you're priced right. You got to make sure your gross margin is right. And then
yep.
you spend enough in marketing to get, when we bought this company 1.7 and 9.7 the first year in Denver, uh, we had to spend no client base to start with.
Yep.
We had to spend 18%.
And the
So I
reality
spent in
is,
that 1.8 million. Think about that. I was 1.7 to start, and we spent almost 1.8 million that
The
first
market.
full year in business. We weren't
marketing.
profitable the first part of that, right? Because we're
No.
putting it all in the marketing, but it paid off.
The average company right now between 0 and 3 million is spending less than 2% of gross revenue in marketing. Period.
Yeah,
Can't.
yeah.
You can't.
You can't
Period.
scale a company. That's impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
We track all of them and we track the percent of I'm like minimum
Yeah.
minimum
But
out
if
of the
but if you're not going to spend that, then you need to go to the events. Then you need to go door
We
knocking
need to do
campaign.
both.
Then yeah,
you've got to do
Because
100%.
the thing that they'll teach you is how to operate,
Yeah.
how to best operate. And they'll give you marketing pieces and marketing ideas and stuff as well. But they're not really a marketing organization per se. They're really a full
Operations.
operational. So
Yeah.
learn operations there, and really learn some marketing there. But really understand marketing and spend the money in the right place. But spend the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Otherwise,
no other way.
good
You
luck.
can buy, yeah, you can buy as many tennis shoes as you want. Shake hands, kiss babies, go to every networking group. You're still never going to make it. You're going to be broke.
Yep.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but it's real.
Yep. Our goal was 10% spend. We always spent 20. But we were growing. I mean, our last 2 years of business, we did $8 million more each year, right? So,
Yep.
it pays off. Like,
Oh, you got to
I'm with
rip
you.
off the Band-Aid. The smaller you are, the bigger the investment, and it
Yeah.
scales back over time.
Yeah,
But if
I
you
see a
start
lot.
small and invest small, you won't grow.
Yeah, I see a
You'll
lot
run
of
out of
these
friends and family.
I see a lot of these companies that run just on cash, and they're so scared of 2008 still, and their parents, that's the way they always did it, and they're so scared. But if you're not going to take the risk, you're not going to get the rewards, right? That's the thing. Sometimes it's not going to work out, right?
What?
I mean, how many entrepreneurs have had multiple businesses that failed before they have one that succeeds?
Yeah.
You
Scared.
may not get
Scared.
lucky on the
Scared money
first
don't
one.
make none.
That's real.
1,000%.
That's real.
1,000%.
100%. Okay, George, we've talked about the majority, and I feel like we're always talking about the $1 to $3, $4, $5 million because that's the majority of the entire industry. So let's flip gears and switch to a company that has structured their business with the intent to sell, cash out at least once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times. What do they look like? What's their infrastructure look like? What's their technology? What's their branding? What's their marketing? What would you guys want to see if you were looking for the cash cow, your little goat for an acquisition and a partner, whether it's a tuck-in or hub and spoke model? What do you guys want to see?
Look, first and foremost, a big thing we look at, and I think any group looks at, is memberships. How many members do you have? That's who
Yeah.
your real client is. You'll find some people that have been in business a long time. They'll be like, I got 25, 30, 50,000 clients in my client base. Okay, how many have used you in the last 2 years? Because a portion of those are your client. We call that an active client, right? And some of those have
Not
left you in the last 2 years. So your
not
real
looking
clients
for
that I know for
one-time use.
sure are your members. And when I say members, paid monthly, a big mistake that a lot of companies make is they give a membership for free with an install. Like if you do that, stop. You won't sell one less install. Nobody's buying the install because they're getting a free 1 year membership. And in fact, I guarantee 99% of them don't even
Don't
know that
even
they became a
remember.
member. They don't even know. And it costs you so much in an acquisition process that you don't even realize. Like it's not, so stop doing that. When I look at a company, I figure out how many were given free with an install like that. And because I take that out, that's not a real member. And I look at if it's paid monthly, it's definitely a real member. If it's paid annually, they probably likely bought a discount at that time or something. It's a lot of times not. Again, the client does. If I call them right now, they likely don't even know they're a member of my company, and therefore that if they know for sure they're paying monthly and they have a problem and they know they're a member of my company, they're using me,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Right.
That's a real member. If they don't even remember that they're a member, they're not. I mean, they might use me if I did a good enough job, but I
Sure.
mean,
And that will show up if you understand MRR, ARR, churn, and LTV. Because your annual recurring revenue is going to show a higher churn and a lower lifetime value. Your MRR, your monthly recurring revenue subscriptions, are going to show a lower churn and a higher lifetime value, which is obviously more valuable to you guys.
yep. So we look at history of the company, reputation, 5-star reviews in all places, memberships. Key people on the team. Our people are our assets. So how long have they been there? Um, those type of things are first and foremost what we look at, and then anybody who's looking at your company is looking at the EBITDA. So what is your profitability over the past 12 months? But also historically, how has the company grown historically? Is it going backwards right now? Those type of things. And by the way, Don't mean to scare anybody. Like, we just look at all those things. Like, there's a number of companies that have went backwards the last couple of years that we'll acquire. It's not something to not pursue a partnership. If you're looking at a possible uh, either exit plan or partnering and staying on and being the person running your branch within Fix It Group, and just learning better how to run the business, and being a shareholder of all of Fix It Group. If you've gone backwards a bit, and you're fed up and want to look at that partnership, we're a great option to at least have a discussion with. And worst case, like many of those discussions, we leave it with me saying, here's some advice, do X, Y, and Z. It's free help. I've never charged a person $1 for advice in my life, and I've mentored hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors at this point.
Hey, George, I got a question for you that I've heard recently. Are you guys looking at water damage referrals as revenue now?
I am not.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I heard that's a thing that that companies are looking at right now.
Restoration companies, you mean?
Plumbers that refer restoration companies and get referral checks. I heard that can be treated as revenue going forward with some of these groups, which I thought was very interesting because that was not a thing when I exited a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, some groups might be looking for restoration companies. I mean, look, I'm looking at plumbing companies, so
Yeah.
so yes, whether that's a stream of income or not, I would be. If it's specifically a restoration company for us, I mean, we're HVAC, electrical, plumbing right now.
Yep.
And so any of those three trades, all mostly home services, that's another thing. Try to stay away from new construction and commercial. Those are things that almost every platform wants to shy away from.
Sure.
Residential service and replacement is where you want most of your revenue to be.
So if you look at a company, and I think a lot of people misunderstand this, if you look at a company and they were two separate companies running under one, but had a commercial division or a new construction division, would you treat that? Would you look at them, or would you be just
Yeah.
interested in the service?
No, we would look at them, but that's, I mean, depending on how well and typically it's not well split.
Sure.
So therefore it's kind of hard to like just
Messy.
separate them, but
Yeah.
some are. So if it's well split, and look, if that's your business, I would say work on that. Work on splitting it really well, because you might say, you
100%.
know what, I'm just going to keep the commercial side
Yeah.
and sell off the residential side. I mean, most groups would do that, and including us.
Cool.
So for those companies that are curious about whether this would be a tuck-in model, whether they can be a hub, if they're going to be slid underneath the Fix It brand, what are the different options for them?
It depends. So a tuck-in would only be in a market I'm already in. But we just acquired a company last year actually in Denver that we kept that brand at this time. So, that could change in the future. But so we look at everything, and I think we're sophisticated enough. And look, it's not about who's right, or it's about what's right and what's best for the organization. Most of the time, these guys become a shareholder of Fix It Group, so they want us thinking that way anyway. But anytime we're going to make a change, we come to that conclusion together with every previous business owner, except for the one in Southern California, was never part of our organization, but every other shareholder or business owners still, even every one of those business owners, again, except for the one in Southern California, was a shareholder enrolled into this next round. They wouldn't have done that if they weren't happy with what's happened so far. I think that's something that's important to note, because that ain't true with a lot of them.
Right.
And some of them wanted to roll too much. One recent acquisition was allowed to roll 100%. Another one wanted to roll as much as a lot more than we let them. These private equity guys want equity. They don't want to. They're not out there giving away equity. That's what they're in it for, right? So, I think that proves out that being a business owner right now and partnering with us historically so far has proven to be highly successful for those that have made that choice so far.
I love that. All right. I have another question real quick. A lot of these guys are getting hammered. There's a lot of other I'm going to call them HVAC companies or contractor companies / consultants that are now trying to pick up equity and pick up companies. And, there's a lot of options, right? You can go the broker route. You can go the platform route. There's these odd pitches I'm seeing constantly of other companies trying to buy our clients, and they look like really backward deals when I look at them. What would you tell people to avoid right now, to be very cautious of? I'll say that.
I would say do your homework. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you answer first.
Number one, do your research. I went through this, right? I tried to broker deal myself. I ended up finding a broker. Talk to somebody who's done it and who's done it successfully. Okay, right? That's point blank. Like, don't go into it and don't. I used to get 20 deals a week come across my desk, right? You gotta figure out what's the right one and who's truly going to do it. And
These are
realistically,
highly influential humans that are on stage and very motivating.
Realistically, they want to come in on an earlier stage at a lower multiple and get to the higher multiple. That's what I'm seeing, right? Again, do your research. My opinion, just my opinion, find a broker and a good broker. That's it, right? Like, I mean,
yeah, look,
if you're interviewing anyone, interview a couple brokers.
Yeah, I would do that. But look, at the end of the day, I'm gonna piss some brokers off right now. But
yep,
the broker just wants to get them the most money they can get them right now. They don't care about what the total long term is for them. They don't care about after this transaction. I'm done. So they only care about one thing. Well, how can I maximize the cash at this transaction? So they don't truly look at a person's true interest as a whole. They might say they do. It's not bad to interview a broker, don't get me wrong, but I think interviewing people that have sold their companies and try to find people that have regretted it and people that are happy. And I can refer to both. But I think interviewing business owners, which I think you were also alluding to, that have actually done it. But you can find look, there's good brokers. I can name one. I think I know who you use, good broker. But the truth is, like, they want to maximize the cash right now, and that's really the biggest thing that they look at.
It's a real transaction, right? It's a transaction. They're selling a house, not building a financial plan over time.
Yeah. But if you find the right one, now I took cash out off the table. I didn't leave anything in, and he told me my options, right? That's why I say, if you find the right broker, I mean, he told me, he was like, hey, look, I can get you more if you're willing to stay on, work with a group, this and that. Like, we didn't even go to open market, George. Like, we found a couple people, and that's who we went with, right? But that was the thing, is like, know the questions that you need to ask the broker, right? And know your options, because I was presented with a list of options of what I could do. My biggest thing for me was time. I wanted a quick close, and I wanted to be done. I wanted to walk away. That was what I wanted. So it's like, you got to figure out what you want out of the deal, and then ask the questions around it.
Let me give you an example. So there was a business owner that partnered with us. Same thing, wanted to retire and didn't want to be part of the business anymore as an active partner, but he wanted to be a shareholder. And so he became a shareholder, and has been free ever since. And he has made, when this is said and done, he took less than 10%. So he got the upper end multiple in the market at that time. So he got one of the highest multiples, also took a less than 10% share value. When this is all said and done, he'll make more off the less than 10% share value, not working another day in our business. He's happy as you can. So he maxed out. He took over 90% cash, and he's going to double that by the time this is done.
Yep.
And he hasn't had to work a day in the business.
That's freaking awesome.
That's cool.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So I would say
See, Chuck, that broker didn't get you in front of me. See, I'm just.
That was my choice. George, he wanted to. Trust me, he was gunning to go to open market, and I said, "Look, I had some family things going on, and I said, look, I appreciate."
I'm joking.
But the fact is I knew what my options were. Right. That's how I know I had the right guy, is because I have zero regrets. Right. Because I knew exactly where I could have went, and that's where I think everybody should be at when they sell their business. They should look back at it and have zero regrets.
For sure, I agree with that.
That's going to start with education. That's why we're doing this podcast series. George, I'm so thankful for you being on here, and I hope we can continue to do this again. I want to leave with one more little segment to this. And for those of you that are joining live, you guys already know how this works. It's running live on our social media channels right now. It's going to be put on all of our podcast channels. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave comments. Ask questions for George, because he said he would come back on before we got on this call. So I'll have all your questions lined up. But, you guys got to know where the scams are. You got to do your research. You got to start having these conversations. This is something that I know that entrepreneurs are really struggling with right now, is they don't know who to talk to, and they don't know within their own organization what they can disclose. They're uncomfortable with, should I make this known to my employees that this is part of my game plan? Who should I include in those conversations? How can they play a role in those conversations? At what point do I include, and who? Like, what kind of advice would you give them? Is this you need some mentors that are outside of your business solely, and you need to keep this to yourself? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely. At the beginning, you tell nobody. And then, at the right time, if you get far along, maybe some of your key people, and with an NDA, right? They sign an NDA, and then you kind of tell them what's going on. By then, it's a much better opportunity for them. So you're telling them the opportunity for them all at the same time. And I think that's important. Whatever that looks like. And that's kind of how you do it. But you don't even do that until you're down the road, and probably, you're an LOI at that point by the time you're telling anybody, even your key people. Otherwise, it just becomes a distraction.
Yeah. I'll give one other tip to that. The deal's not done till the money's in the bank. So don't stop.
True.
Right?
I've seen these deals fall apart at the 11th hour. Many
11th
times.
hour. And literally, we had our best month in company history the last month we were in business, while we were in diligence. You don't stop. I see a lot of owners take their foot off the gas. If anything, drive forward even harder.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. All right, you guys, our producers, I'm going to let them have a break this time. We're not going to be the ones that make them have to come in and say that we're over talking for another 15 minutes. And I want to save some good stuff for the next interview. George, any kind of closing thoughts you would leave people with? I know that you've always been amazing. When I have a client that's interested in having this conversation, uncomfortable, not sure who to go to, you've always opened your door. How can they reach you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, and here's the thing with me that I can say, and I think anybody that's ever met with me can say, a lot of people have a self-interest and a self-motivation. My self-interest, first and foremost, is do what's best for what somebody's looking for. And I would say 9 out of 10 times that's not partnering with us right now. And I'll still help them figure out how to or direct them. Sometimes I actually direct those people to a broker specifically, depending on what they're looking for. My email is gdfiredup@gmail.com. Super easy. George Donaldson is gdfiredup@gmail.com. People that reach out to me, I might not get back to you same day with questions or just anything. I will always get back to you. And by the way, if I don't, I miss the email. Bring it back to the top of my email within a couple of days. But I'll always get back to people. I'll always help them. I'm in this industry to serve my people, to serve the industry, to help people. You'll never see me on social media pounding my chest, talking about all the things I've done, flashing Ferraris and any of that bullshit. That's not me, and that's never been me. I truly, I don't just say I'm helpful and I want to be helpful, and my actions follow my words and everything that I do. So gdfiredup@gmail.com. And whether it's entertaining a conversation about the future of possibly exiting your business, or hey, 10 years from now, what does my business need to look like to do that? And what would you do if here's my situation? Here's what I am, in a conversation, I would tell you, this is what I'd recommend you do, X, Y, and Z. And I'll give you the best advice that I possibly can every single time.
I love that. We love working with you guys. You guys have made us a better marketing agency. I'll tell you that. You give us a run for our money. I love that. I love the fact that you guys challenge us. We've had to build and grow our business around your model and your system to better support you guys. So I appreciate the pressure. I'm not going to say you're the easiest, but we definitely learn the most from you guys, and we appreciate all of the opportunities you guys give us, and I appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, George.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, George.
See
All
ya.
right.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.